I agree. We'll call it to order. Marcy, can you do the roll call?
Yeah, we got Lexi here, John,
Here.
Justin,
Here.
Gary,
Here.
and Dr. Singh.
Thank you. 14, 28 meetings. Questions on either or both of those? All right. Nat, do you have any comments for those?
I do not
Okay.
this time.
All right. Financial planning agreement, Northland Securities.
I wanted to pose this to you all. A lot of communities use a TIF consultant, and in that TIF consultant, they usually have a financial person as well that follows up with the developer on making sure they fill out the proper paperwork so that they can get the rebate or abatement that they're looking for. At this time, I know when Karen was here, she made the comment that it's pretty overwhelming, and I guess just to remove any error, it would be a good idea to look at entering into an agreement with North Securities. Heidi does this. She's done all of our bonding for us. She does our TIF. What was I looking for? Anyway, the $7,000 can be absorbed, and that's for a one-year contract. That money can be absorbed into the development agreements where we have the $8,000 set aside for legal. I realized that moving into the new budget year, this wasn't budgeted, but I'm confident that we can absorb that into the development agreements moving forward. And then when we start to do the budget for FY24, then we will go ahead and adjust that accordingly. I would go with Dorsey and Whitney. They do our development agreements now, but they only do the legal side of it. They do not do the financial side of it. So it's kind of an anomaly, but Dorsey and Whitney are top notch and they're used throughout Dubuque County, Delaware County, and well beyond. There is one company, and Marcy and I were trying to butt heads, not butt heads, but think about, you know, the name of it. And we think it's Sperry, and they do both the agreements and the financial side of it, but there's no sense of pulling out with Dorsey and Whitney because we have such a good relationship with them right now. And I just see this moving forward with the amount of agreements that we do have in place, that this is just another layer of security to make sure that not only the development language, the legal language is correct, but the financial side is correct as well. And it takes a lot of the burden off of staff as well. So in my opinion, it's money well spent.
Currently it's being done in-house.
In-house, yeah. Karen has had everything set up. But as you know, I think we have what, 9? I think there's 9 or 10 development agreements right now. There are a few of them that are nearing the payoff, but then we have all these new ones that have just been generated. They're a little bit more complicated. So I would make the recommendation to put this in the hands of somebody that's in their wheelhouse and does this.
Questions? Other than.
So who would actually review this now then?
We would give them all the information, and we would still go through the negotiations with them, and they would be responsible for collecting the raw financial data and then putting together the actual forms that the developer has to fill out, that they themselves have to fill out at this point. And then they do they look through, they do the calculations, they do the confirmation that the taxing rate is correct. and then they follow up with the developer. And then at that point, then they would let us know that it's okay to release the funds to the developer.
Other questions?
How much time does city staff spend on one of these agreements?
I don't know how much time Karen had spent on those. I have not put any time into it yet because I haven't had an agreement come up. But I don't think it's, one component is the staff time. I think what we have to realize first and foremost is this leaves little room for error. And if it comes back to there is an error, then we have a consultant that we can lean back on that would have to correct that versus, doing something in-house and leaving that room for error. Same as a development agreement. I mean, you could take a development agreement and just change the terms in it. However, it's best to have somebody that does that for a living, such as Dorsey and Whitney.
I think with the young, our young people in their positions, not having the expertise, it's not a bad idea to set something like this up for this year. And then reevaluate whether we continue that in the next fiscal year or not.
Is there training or courses out there for?
I'm sure there are, but right now, Jerry, just getting her caught up to speed, what she needs to know, I think this is too overwhelming.
Long term is what I'm asking.
Long term, I think so. I mean, we were very fortunate to have Karen in that position for 22 years, but even at that experience level, she was still worried that she was going to slip up and make a mistake.
That's why they get reviewed though,
Right.
so. You're only human, it's gonna happen.
This gives us a look.
Yeah, and as the mayor said, that, can always reevaluate this after the year to see how much we do utilize them. And then make that decision as we go into the next budget year.
This cost is just for the rest of this year.
This will be for one full year, from July to July.
July 1st.
Mhm. And that's not to say that, we would meet the maximum amount on there, but her hourly rate is there. And I will do the best that I can to try to absorb as much as I can from her.
Not to exceed.
I think I'm good with moving forward with a year and see where we're at here.
I'm fine.
Do we need an action tonight?
No, we'll just put it on the agenda for approval. Because it's above my approval
Yep.
level.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on? Item up is Callahan to discuss a TIF for tax agreement for this project. We'll have any discussion. Joel and his son are here to talk with us tonight. Prior to that, or you want to have them talk to us first and then? You guys have the floor?
Ready for us?
The door opens up out, so.
Well, we're prepared. Anything prepared. So kind of bear with us a little bit. Joey's gonna present some stuff, and I don't, obviously we're ultimately it comes down to the tax incentive package that we have. But we also are here to answer some questions that came up from the council on June 2nd. So what we thought we'd do is try to inform you the best we can on what we know. Try to drive home a few points. This is just a sketch, it's kind of because this isn't really where we're at. This is more of what we foresee to be there. Can you grab me the C2 zone? What we foresee in these areas that these subdivision will be platted into. So, and then also this one also shows you know, I should back up a little bit too. What we're proposing in the package and the development agreement and the incentives is we're moving forward with the entire road. We got confirmation that we can have a box culvert in a month. But our window's tight. And our finances is tight. With everything, we're afraid the recession's is gonna hit us. So that's kind of why we're here to give you as much as we can and try to drive this home. So our intent is the entire road. So that's why it shows it here. There's no cul-de-sacs. It's going from one end to the other. That's the final project road. Hand them out. This is the C2 zoning. You know, when we talk a little bit about, you know, what's going in there, you know, we're flexible with things that you don't want, that you don't see that's on our concept plan. We're okay with agreeing to something like that too. So that's an option too. So if you want to grab I'm going to let Joey talk a little bit about some of this. Someday, hopefully he takes over this and I stay home. So go ahead.
He looks worried. I don't know. When you made that statement, he went.
Now, he's prepared for this, so we'll see how he does.
This is the Piasta, middle of everywhere. Just a few pages out of it that, I wanted to highlight that we kind of include in our development. You know, some of these things are what the city has been looking to put in for a while now. The frontage road running parallel to Highway 20. I mean, the connection from Madrina to Cox Springs, that's a key piece to, you know, finishing that road. And the next few pages are the trail systems that we are looking at donating in the developers agreement. That would connect all the way from Madrina to Cox Springs and also run north as well. So I mean, the people, that's one of their top priorities is having these greenways and trails. So that's why we thought it was so important to put that in the agreement. And on the last page, that is just the trails that we're looking at putting in right now. That would be the land that would be donated in the development. Next, I have the Piasta Forward Comprehensive Plan. And again, this goes over the trail system, but there's also a few other things in here that I thought were important. Just on the first page is what the housing looks like in Piasta. I mean, your vacancy rate is at 1.6%, which is you know, fairly low. So I think what our development is offering is, you know, a large increase in the available units for Piasta. And on the next page, it shows how many people are leaving Piasta to work in other cities and how many people are traveling into Piasta to work. So, I mean, this number right here, 1,800, I mean, that's a lot of people that are traveling into Piasta that might not have the opportunity to live in Piasta. Our development would provide that opportunity.
So how much do you think people don't live in Piasta but work in Piasta? Is it 100% because of available units?
Well, on the few pages before, the 1.6 vacancy rate, I mean, that's extremely slim. You know, that would be indicative of, you know, a low high for rental units especially would help with that.
I think a mixed mixed type of rental units with condos, 55 older apartments is kind of something that's not very prevalent here. You know, it's common, obviously, Islamic place and stuff, and it's, you know, ours has a mixed use of it, you know, again, with some commercial, residential above, and apartments, straight apartments, and some 55 and older. 55 and older is one of the biggest affordable housing vehicles to open up in the city. Because usually your older people are staying under selling a house, and they go into something like that. You know, where it's not an assisted living, it's just a 55 older.
So on the next few pages, again, there's just the greenways that have potential to go in that development. And again, the front road connecting to Cox Springs.
So, you know, and Kristen could, you know, depending on what your opinion is on this today, she can detest more, you know, how the trail systems are owned or typically donated. You know, most all trail systems are owned by the city. Most waterways are owned by the city, but not all. And so that'll be a good question for her that I'll have her at the next council meeting for, because when they do these up, most of them, but not all, the city takes the waterways in. But I know it's a double-edged sword. I know that when we do developments, most always, either the city owns them or the city puts a easement in them. Because the city always wants to have access to any, you know, creekways, to have whatever reason for it. But like I said, Kristen will give you some statistics on the majority of them are owned by the city, but some of them, but not all.
The next black and white photo really shows how important that we think the road is to the city. We actually believe that putting our development here in the road will actually decrease the traffic to Birds Road, which is, you know, a little bit of a problem for the city. Just in this Parkview Estates right here, according to these numbers given to us by the Cody Austin
Engineering.
you know, we believe that we will almost take 1,000 trips off of Bird Roads a day, just from the people in Parkview Estates, because again, 80% of Piasta's labor force leaves Piasta for work. And people living in Parkview Estates, you know, the quickest way to the highway would be taking this new road.
What type of traffic does that put on Highway 20 at Cox Springs then?
Well, it depends on where they come off on. If they come off on Cox Springs Road, it'll be a combination of Cox Springs and Thunder Valley. And then we also know that sooner or later it's gonna connect to Cotton. So you know, that's the ultimate goal. I mean, we just wanted to show that, you know, we were concerned about how much traffic this might dump up into Parkview, but we think just the opposite. It's gonna take most of it down and out. Because we know Bird Road is probably the #1 biggest traffic issue the city has. So that's just, it just shows that we believe the traffic flow will come out here. And that's Kristen with Origin helping us with that.
And the next one shows again why we believe that you know, this development won't put any more strain on Bird Road. Just measuring out the distance on Beacon, it'd be shorter and quicker to take Cox Springs to 20 to get to Quick Trip instead of going up Bird Road. So we believe most people, if they wanted to get back in town, they'd just hop back on the highway.
biggest part of this council meeting was to discuss, you know, the TIF or the tax abatement. And we are in a few other cities close by, and we do have agreements with them, tax incentive. And a lot of them are tax abatement. Manchester, which we talked to Tim Vick a few days ago, they are offering a tax abatement, 5 years, 100%, the next 5 years, 70%. And that's in their ordinance, that's automatic. And they also offer a 50-50 split on the concrete for the roads, any roads you put in. The next one is Dyersville, which we have a few buildings in there. Their tax incentive is also built into their ordinance. Anything over 500,000, you get 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 30, 20, 20. The last one is Farley, which is also nearby. There's a few buildings there as well. And their tax abatement, which is built into their ordinance, is 10-year, 100%. So tax abatement isn't really, you know, we believe that it's a pretty common tool for us to use. We are comfortable with that, and we believe that it fits project better than a TIF.
One of the things we've learned in most of these cities, they have, we can do either or. Depending on the project. You know, if you were doing a subdivision, TIF makes the most sense. You know, and obviously, you know, all the city administrators share everything, and they're more than happy to share their information and go forward. We believe a tax abatement makes the most sense for us. Because the TIF has a few more guidelines for us, because it's okay if you build, for the TIF for us, it makes it tougher for us to build one building and then it starts, but then you can't start another one because it's already in place on the same lot. That's why the tax abatements, that's why a lot of these tax abatements makes the most sense, because it's whenever that building becomes fully assessed, like what we're asking for, then the tax abatement will start. We're open to it either way. We're not, this is it or none, that's not our intent. We're just saying that this makes the most sense. And the most important thing, and we're not experts on this, but I think seems like we've talked to a lot of cities and trying to understand it. You know, the city of Dubuque just gave us a tip of 65% for 10 years straight through, which was pretty equal to what our tax abatement that we were asking for. So we just got to figure out what vehicle works for both of us. I think the big thing is, you know, and we talked to the other administrators, and you know, we're kind of like, well, I'm paying for the road. We're just asking for tax abatement on any of the projects that are built in. And they all say that the tax abatement is a better vehicle because it's less burden on the city. It doesn't go against the debt ceiling. I'm not an expert, and this is obviously you've kind of put somebody, sounds like, in place already to help better understand that than what we're trying to tell you, because we're not that good at it either. But it seems like every city now that we walk into, they instantly go, everybody's going tax abatement. So we're still open to this. I mean, one or the other. We just know the tax abatement is a way easier vehicle for the developer, everybody.
Why is it easier for the city?
Why is it easier for the city? Because it doesn't have any, it doesn't go against your debt. especially in the magnitude of some of these projects that are coming up. And when they do the taxes, you're always calculating the taxes and every year that you can explain this better. You can't predict next year in a TIF. You can guess, but you can't wait till you get there, and then you gotta recalculate everything, because it's changing all the time of what your
Levy rates.
the levy rates are. It's just simple, it's clean. Even when you go to pay taxes or, and this isn't something you get reimbursed for, this is just something you don't pay. It is, once you've been here, you'll say this is easy. But it's not for every project, don't get me wrong here.
And why does abatement help you versus TIF?
Because we don't believe we're gonna be able to put one building up, apply for, we have to let the city know that we're gonna apply for our tax abatement for that one building. And then next year, we just apply for the second building, then the third building, the fourth, or whatever. In a TIF, it all has to start at once, and then the city has to figure out how the cap rate works with it, and then you don't know what is the building gonna be worth in 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. It's changing, it's a formula that changes all the time.
So playing devil's advocate here, we've done nothing but TIF. I think we've been pretty damn successful in the last 30, 40 years. Why would we want to change anything?
I don't think you've pursued the avenue yet
Okay, that's fair.
to know the difference. I mean, every city we go into, we went into 2 cities and said, hey, we'd like a tax hit. They're like, well, what's that? And then within a couple of months, it's done. And it's like, that was a great idea. This really works good for certain products. And with the size, the growth you have here too, I think it's most important to watch your debt. So one of the other things that, we're trying to want to hit home probably the hardest on this whole thing. The tax payment that we're asking for is not any different than anybody else, like College Suites,
Piazza Square.
Piazza Square. We're not asking for any more than what they're asking for. But the only difference is we're putting in $1.5 million road in. So we're not asking for any more. So it's actually, we just know the TIF vehicle won't work in this continuing to build out development. But I want to drive home that we're not asking for enormous amounts. We're asking for the same thing you're giving College Suites, but I'm forking out $1.5 million for the road.
Which one are you asking for? I don't see it in our paperwork here.
Oh, sorry.
That's in our development
You want to
agreement
grab
still.
it? Why don't you grab it? So we took, sorry, I don't want to keep you guys too long here, but a little bit of groundwork, what's coming in the future, whether it's me or somebody else. So we took our development agreement that you guys read and looked over, and we made some changes to it. And he made them in red, and I had to go over it so you can understand them a little bit.
This is seriously shocking. 67. I live and work in Piazza. My family's 3 of them. Like,
You're 5% of it.
we're 5%. It's low.
So Joey's just gonna run through it real quick, and whatever changes we we made to the one you received, we left it in red, so you don't have to read everything you word. You just gotta look at the red stuff that's changed. And some of it works. Yeah, let's go through that real quick. And then this will solve. Well, some of the stuff, Annette asked us to put in, what's the very first one? First page.
We removed the excluding sidewalks.
Yeah, just that it was, there might have been a little confusion on how our goal is the person that buys the lot or develops that lot, the city's gonna have an ordinance and they're having to take care of the sidewalk. We had a little confusion in there about who was doing it, so we just excluded it.
So the plan would be whoever develops it puts that one.
More likely than not, that would be.
Well, right, it's whoever comes in with a site plan. So when you come in with a site plan for your lot, that sidewalk should be shown for your sidewalk review or for your site review.
Yeah. I mean, we right now have a draft version in form we're gonna talk about tonight. That'll be on the agenda for the 14th.
Yeah.
So if the council accepts it, I mean, we've been talking about this for quite some time. So my advice to them is to go ahead and waive the second, third reading, and then everything would be adopted July 1 of this year, so.
So we just took that out of there for confusion purposes. None of us, we don't have any site plans submitted for any of this yet, so we'll have time for that. All right, what's the next one?
Next is under development activities, number 2. We just added in the state of Iowa, just to follow their laws, ordinance, regulations.
Something in that.
On subsection 2, at the developer's cost, just to make sure that the developer is paying for the extension of the utilities. Number 3, we remove some wording with the sidewalks, and we put that a little later. 4, for the donation, we named the few lots that are shown in the final plat. These are just for the trails. We split it up between the creek and the trails so that if you guys agreed to accept that or not, we could easily remove. Number 5 is where we included the sidewalks. So each lot owner is supposed to put the sidewalks in at the time. Put their sidewalks. Number 6, we changed this to, since we're now putting in the full road, we just committed to completing that by the fall of 2023. Just to show that we're committed to finishing that. 7, I know the building material was a big item. For now, we just have that we're going to use, a PV material design. I know there's future negotiation on that, what the council and what we want to include in the agreement.
So with that, and that was something that you guys have talked to us about. We're okay with anything. We just don't know what quite the direction. Architectural, we put architectural review, we actually added the water's edge, but then we were said, well, just attach it, and then somebody said, don't attach it, take it off, and then we don't know quite the direction of this yet. It's kind of unheard of at this stage, but I'm still okay. If it makes you guys feel comfortable, I'm okay with it in. I just, we do have a draft here that, which is the one that, so vinyl siding was one of our big concerns. So we did a draft up here, primary, secondary, aesthetically appeal, architectural. We can incorporate that all into this agreement. We didn't know if this was the proper place to do it yet. So
Where else would you put something like that in your experience?
restricted covenants. And that's never governed by the city,
Those expire though, right?
20 years. Unless you renew, but everybody has to agree to renew.
the other way around. Only need one person to agree to renew them, right?
Group is certain percentage.
I think it's one person. We got developments that are old and they all went, because they agree to it. All it takes is one person not to agree to it. I'm gonna tell you, I'm 99% right.
Well, I know that the covenants are out here that if you get two people that want them to not expire, they won't expire.
Just file for
It's extension. I don't know how it works. I just know that's the case, because when I was approached by someone to say, hey, let's extend these.
I haven't noticed it.
AJ had them wrote,
Well,
I guess,
that could be.
they were just wrote up that way that.
So going back to this thing, and like I said, I'm okay putting it in here. One of the things you could do, you could add something to your site plan review, which is really kind of more appropriate time for it. But there again, I'll take the direction of either or. Because I could put in here, you know, all the different, see, one of the, we had to make changes to this because it was calling specific brand name stuff out. And it's like, how do you do that? You know, that's why you see, well, we can do that. I mean, we believe that you know, architectural feeling, you know, as part of the, site plan review. You know, we talked to we've been conversing with an architect, and he says that's where a lot of times they come in. Because they don't want just to know what you're gonna put in for vinyl siding or cement board siding, they wanna know what the building's gonna look like. But that's really not here either. It's just a little bit of no man's land here. So we put this together, kind of guidance off water's edge, because you're trying to make, you know, primary, secondary type material. You know, the one I handed you has vinyl in it. We've got another one that don't have it too, don't we, Joe? Okay, so we're okay. I'm, whatever direction you give us, we're gonna go. I think, you know, and this is just, I don't have my big site plan, but on this here drawing, you know, you can get in your site plans, you know, you can have a rendering of the building, you know, that you can bring forth in the site plan. You know, because there again, this, in the site plan, it'll tell you what's street side and what's not. You know, so then you might have primary, secondary type choices on the street side and something different on the alley side. I'm okay. If we want vinyl siding out of it, I have no issues with it. I don't, the other issue you got is, you know, who else do you make do all that? You know? But I'm really okay with it either way. And we can incorporate that right into the development agreement, something that we can come to terms on. I have that same draft without vinyl siding, but if we put some residential condos, townhouses in it, how do you not be able to put siding on, or vinyl siding on? I don't know.
You could put a percent of vinyl versus, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think, right, and so then, even in Water's Edge had what percentages there were. But then when we were trying to use theirs, because obviously I'm a builder, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no way that would work on one of these commercial with residential above. You know, you couldn't ever afford to do that. I mean, not realistically, you know, so then we were pulling and making adjustments to some of it. You know, but and then it comes down to an opinion. Most site plans, like when we'll come in with a site plan for lot 1 with the apartments here, you have to have that plan done in order to make the site plan. So you're gonna have a rendering of that drawing when you submit that site plan. they need it to make sure it's sized right.
But if we don't have anything anywhere as far as use plain terms here, is construction material, this is plain generic terms. And it fits every other checkbox as far as a site plan, we at that point can't tell you that it's gotta be, you gotta make it out of this, right?
I don't know who enforces it. I mean,
Well, that's my point, is we could have a gentleman's agreement here that says, okay, at the site plan, you know, we'll come in and we're gonna tell you that it's gonna be at whatever, 60% brick or whatever it is. Then you come in with a site plan and it's 5% brick, at that point, it's too late, because if it fits all the other check boxes, we can't tell you no. Is that correct?
I think you can enforce
I
it.
think you could do that. That's the appropriate time to do it.
Until something's done, right? And we're still ahead of anything being constructed.
Right.
So we're gonna have-
Still need to have something right, you know, something broken down like this, because when you sell it to your person that knows that developed that, you want to be able to have that.
But they know.
Have it
That way they're
transferred.
not caught off guard when they come in.
That's what's required.
And when you record my final plat and the certificate of survey, is the developer agreement recorded?
I don't record those.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't record anything. That's the
Well, what I'm saying,
developer's
in order
responsibility.
to put
Even if we had this in
record,
here, you're saying it's not put on
I
record.
don't think a developer agreement makes it to the county.
No, but what it does is it's a living document with the city, so
Right.
that's where it resides.
Like covenants, all these new developments. Thunder Valley and all that, they don't have any vinyl, it's all that engineered siding, that wood, right? That's all in the covenants, so.
Right, and those are recorded and sent to the county.
So with this, will we just have to work with you, or?
The restrictive covenants are recorded with the county.
So we just have covenants, so construction, commercial covenants? A good expired in 20 years?
Right, but I'd want it written in there to where it doesn't take one person to say that they don't want it renewed. I'd wanna see a percentage. I don't know what that percentage is.
Because all the covenants we have in town are all residential.
Right.
So I don't know, commercial, if there's a possibility to have them lifetime or longer. You know what I mean? Longer than 20 years.
I think you can do anything you want,
Non,
as long as you pass it by ordinance,
non, expiring or something.
just in perpetuity.
With lawyers, it ended at 20 years.
20s.
You might mutually agree to have and then extend
Well,
it. Isn't it?
20 years, I'm not gonna be around here.
I know.
Just
20 years, that's, I don't even seriously.
Sorry. I got six, six,
Like
seven,
broken
seven,
too?
yeah, 11 years old, and we went through this every 20 years.
Yeah, but this is just something, this is one of our main concerns, remember?
Right.
That we just wanted to get this crossed off, that way we don't have to keep actually over. So it's either through a building agreement, covenant, or however else we do this, we just gotta figure it out.
So could we just add that to the agreement then?
Sure.
At this?
What we, you know, have an agreement.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe an
I
example.
mean, we have it set in, ready to go in here, but we just didn't know how to. put it.
Right, what direction?
You know, you can't, you know, one of the comments on our notes were 60% brick.
60% required on the ground floor, but glazing goes flat. Then for just those,
Well, 50% brick. Now, is that 50% street side or 50% the entire building? I mean, that's just a comment. It doesn't, you know
I
what?
think that was used as a reference.
So this is a good chart to use because you can mandate, because I think somewhere in there it says street side, you have a different choice of primary and secondary.
Right, but the problem we have down there is, as we talked, the street side may be Adrena, but then we've got the highway the backside showing the, so what's street side?
Yeah.
Right?
At that point, I think you almost want to just you're doubling it up, you're gonna have the whole building follow those covenants or.
So can't you add to your site plan review of make and siding that don't make requirements? It's just like you have to meet criteria to make a site plan. You have that in the same process? No?
Maybe. It seems like we're getting lost in the weeds here a little bit. I mean, the discussion was really about tax abatement versus TIF. Now, Joel and Joy are trying to kind of give us the vision that we've asked for. So I think that's, does that have the bearing on what we want to do with them from a tax abatement versus a TIF? They just want to know so they can write into the agreement.
I think it kind of does. And the reason I say that, but I think they've demonstrated that they're willing to work and be flexible with what we want to do. We just got to figure out what we want to do and get it writing. So I think it does though,
I agree.
because if they were to come in and say absolutely not, we're going to put up
Whatever.
stick buildings, just pieces of stick. Well,
We're
no,
gonna say,
you're
and you're getting nothing.
right. I think you've proven that they're willing to.
So where are we at, I guess, from let's just go back and get back to the discussion of TIF versus tax abatement. What are, I guess, where are we at on that? What are questions that we have?
Their next page shows what they're asking for 10 years.
So that right there matches your TIF.
At 80%?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know.
The only-
Does it? I don't know.
The only way we knew, we had Tim McEllis from Manchester. We laid it out for him and he showed us how to do it.
So
I am getting confirmation from the assessor's office on the subtraction for the TIF levy. I did estimate that based off another TIF, and then I found the calculation from the other development agreements on how the council came to the rebate amount for the TIF, and that's what I used.
So the TIF is about 15% of what the project's value is. And that's the same percentage we use. The only
The
difference,
TIF cap.
the TIF cap, right?
So, obviously you can, I think, sense, fear, see, whatever, the hesitance of us. Just, and it's not, I don't think it's anything of not wanting to explore it or wanting, it's just something we've never done. Right? So I think that's hesitant.
You just college suites and they're done. You're saying tax abatement.
Yes, correct, yes.
So I agree with that. I've been pushing this tax abatement 2.5 years ago to get it, to have the city get educated on it. And I submitted that first agreement in March.
So what are the downfalls for the city by doing the abatement?
It's very costly up front.
What's our cost?
I don't know. I would have to go through the attorney as far as it's a process.
What things would cost us?
Public hearings, agreements, a renewal, an amendment. There's just, from what Dorsey and Whitney said, it's very costly up front.
Where's the cost at?
Because you have to create an urban revitalization area, not an urban renewal area.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, you can never do the urban renewal. You have
So it's
to.
the same process whether you use either vehicle.
but for some reason, the way it's been explained to me, it's just more costly upfront to do it than the already urban renewal areas that we have.
But once you do the renewal, you can't have the abatement in it. So if you have any motel, hotels there, it doesn't sound like that'll be able to be abated. Keep that in mind.
So it is in there, it's in our agreement.
Yeah.
Either I give it to them or I take it.
Yeah, it's just our notes saying it's not illegal. That's to start at 100, I guess.
Well, I think what he's saying is it's transferable. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
But not at 100%. So do you know when we say it's costly, are we talking tens of, 20s of, 30s of $1,000s? Are we talking?
I couldn't give you a dollar amount. I just know that that's been conveyed to me that it's
The
costly.
new Cascade administrator,
Mhm.
I don't remember her name, have you met her yet?
Mhm.
She just did one for me in Eldridge. Now she's in Cascade. I went in that city, they learned how to do it, they hired somebody, they made it. And they did it all in a couple months. She would know. She'd be a good balance for it.
Is there a, go ahead.
It sounds like once it's set up, it's easier, though, right?
Yeah, because the county takes over, they do all the work.
So it's kind of.
Is there a loss of tax revenue from doing one versus doing the other? Or is it just because it all equals out at the end? What does it-
It's not fair to your debt service. That's where you really struggle. So when you go out to bond projects, then it's really kind of, it frees up some money, but in my sense, from who I've talked to, it's either way. A city can go either way on this, but it's what the council's comfort, what their comfort level is. But knowing that if you want to go the tax abatement route, it's going to be probably 2 to 3 months out to get that set up because of the public hearings and all the other
And that's all.
steps that you need to do
Allocate
to
the
get that set up.
location, correct?
Yes, yep,
But you can agree to it ahead of time.
right. But your area, part of your area is already an urban region. So there again, I would have to work with Dorsey Whitney to see how we would
I
have
didn't know
to,
that.
yeah.
Was that always?
I believe it is, yes.
Oh. That's new to us. We didn't know
What
that.
parts are part of the urban
Yeah.
renewal?
I believe it's the 40 acres that Conlon had sold to him. I'd have to double check.
So that whole amount up by 20?
The whole amount up by 20,
Isn't
I'm
that-
sorry. Oh, by Highway 20, yeah. 40
that's 40 acres. So you're saying this is all in?
I'm pretty sure it is. So there again, I mean, there would be a process to remove it and then create that urban revitalization area to put that property back in there so that you could move forward with the abatement.
Did Whitney do that with the water's edge stuff? That,
I don't,
I don't think.
but
I don't think it's about, unless it's been more than 10 years ago.
it wouldn't have been more than 10 years ago.
So
So if it's in the urban renewal, it would be easiest
To do the TIF
to do the TIF.
rebate. Mhm.
or else you'd have to
And
have,
quicker.
like, you're gonna remove it.
Right.
And then,
we think the vehicle, the TIF won't work on how we're trying to structure it though. That's where we,
Your TIF won't work on housing at all. It only, TIF is really an incentive and a mechanism to get the infrastructure in place for the project. So it'd be like sewer, water. Typically, they don't include roads, but I've seen it done in Illinois. So that's really an incentive tool for any kind of development. The abatements is more for multi-res and single family.
our retirement communities are all TIF.
Yeah, they're multi-res. Or because they have a commercial component in them, I'm sure. If they have a beauty salon in them, if they have a common area for laundry,
I didn't even know that.
that's the one, that's how that's set up in Dyersville. Because I talked to Mick Mickle about at 55 and older, that's right there by Tyson's. And he said that was set up through TIF simply because they had that commercial component in there. They had a beauty salon, so they consider that a commercial.
Just because I introduced tax abatement after they got their TIF. That, But it just, once they realized how this vehicle worked, it was like,
Yeah, and again, and this, it's completely up to the pleasure of the council, you know, which incentive tool.
and I get it, and we don't need to keep hushing over because I know it ain't gonna happen overnight. But I just, one of the big things that, you know, I'm driving home here, I'm not asking for any more, and I'm giving you a road. And
Now, do you happen to know if one piece of land can have urban renewal and urban revitalization?
I don't believe they can.
Because I know when we were talking to Tim Vick, he said the entire city of Manchester is in an urban revitalization area. And they also have urban renewal. Now,
Right.
I don't know if that's separated by lot. It could.
I think it's designated, Joey, by single-family residential, multi-res, and then commercial industrial is your TIF. I think that's how they break it up. So they would, I'm sure they have a map that shows what the URA is and what the urban revitalization area is. So that's my understanding of it. But you can only have one or the other.
as far as, you know, your other questions that you had, I think we kind of covered the 6 questions that council had on June 2nd. You know, and then we know this isn't gonna go to council. I do have another request for you. You know, right now my bond's been running. And it's still running, and it costs me every day to run it. Can I, and you probably can't tell me if I can now, but can I pull my bond back until it's approved and then submit it?
I don't see why you couldn't. You'd have to talk to your insurance carrier.
Well, it's the
Bonded.
bank,
Pardon me?
it's the bank.
It's, I'm
Letter
sorry.
of credit, letter of credit.
Oh, okay, yep.
Letter of credit. Because you pay on it every day.
I mean, I don't think that's a problem with us.
No, I don't think it
One
is.
thing, I mean,
And then once we can get this cleaned up, then I'll bring it back. And then we can go forward, because right now doesn't make sense for us.
I will find out for you and let you know.
and I think, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but speak for myself, I think we're closer than it may appear. I think. I don't wanna make you leave here thinking that
No, I think we're on the right track, right?
we just need to button some things up.
And you need to check my numbers.
Right,
I get that. I want to know it too, it's just as bad as,
right.
you know, but that's all we need. We just sit down for other people that do this for help.
The 80% was based off of my estimate for the TIF. If that number were to change, then, you know, we would consider changing those, the abatement numbers as well, just to match what the TIF is.
Did you have that number in here somewhere?
Appraisal number,
I don't.
do you know what it is off the top of your head?
The, what are you asking for?
The appraisal number, that's how you do your tax abatement.
Oh, the assessed value?
Yeah.
We thought that the dwelling would be around 90,000 a unit. So that would be around 7.2 million
That's on the one lot.
on the one lot.
On the one southwest lot,
I mean, this will increase your tax base about 16, not tax base.
Assessed value, no, taxable value.
Taxable value
15%.
about 16%.
How many units was that, Joey, at 90,000 per unit?
80.
And that's in one unit,
one,
One lot.
one lot.
Yeah.
And Joel, what do you estimate the road cost?
We got it for it. Forgot to take that.
We have a couple. We've gathered a couple quotes on the.
I think it's a rather large.
it's a 30-year-old, man.
I had all day to prepare.
So the culvert cost?
We did gather a couple quotes on the culvert cost. Schroeder came in so far with the cheapest at 280,000. The street we received from Ehrlich, and he gave us at just over 1.5. So the total on that is about 1.8.
So one of the reasons, well, after we kind of knew and understood the tax, 80%, 70%, 80%, we incorporated that total cost, but we were gonna ask for the city.
We did, and we did remove that from the development.
So we removed that, asking for that. We just said in the original one, it said good faith negotiations, but we removed that. And we incorporated it into our TIF. Our abatement. So
See, you want TIF, see?
So it's not an easy thing to do, and I feel sorry.
You put up with us, we all feel sorry for it.
Well, it's,
It's plenty of other reasons to be sorry for it.
I think once you
I'm
get
right
down
here.
a little bit, we feel sorry for you.
Look. All right, so where are we at? What do we need to do here at this point?
Well, I think
Double check the numbers.
I double check some numbers, I guess truly understand, I need to truly understand what truly the pros and cons, what the process would be to get us to a tax abatement.
Okay.
What the true pros and cons of that is versus what the TIF is.
The upfront cost would be.
What the upfront cost would be.
Right.
But I don't think we're miles away,
No, I think we're getting, like you said, button up
button some stuff up.
two or three things.
Well, if it helps anybody, I did put some notes out there in Word docs.
Yeah, I think everybody's been kind of looking at those.
And the only thing I ask is, you know, if our numbers are wrong or what. You know. Let's sit down and explain it, make sure we're going. I'm not trying to hide anything, I'm trying to lay it all out here and do the best we can today.
My best judgment, 80% I believed was the equivalent to the TIF, 85%.
See, we're in Manchester, we have 14 acres in Manchester. And we're rolling in there with a road and a apartment. And so it's kind of the same here, just that's why we're we are, knowing that here's our options and what it is and how to calculate it out, because we're over there trying to figure out which one to pick from, since there's a picky. You know, we're like, I don't know what makes sense to go here, and then that was the direction he steered us. So that's kind of why that's how we got our education.
And your biggest thing on your side of things is the fact that the abatement starts when the building is done for each specific building versus the lot.
We don't believe the TIF, the tax abatement starts at the certificate of occupancy of each building, and we don't believe the TIF will allow for that.
The state regulation will allow that.
So you're thinking that the abatement is when the building's done versus TIF is when the first building's done.
Say that one more time.
The advantage to you, one of the advantages to you is abatement will go to each building as it's finished, correct?
Yes.
TIF will start, the clock will start as soon as the first building on the lot is done. Is that right?
And
That's the differences for you?
well, we don't think, we think we'd have to roll back in here and get it on each individual. We need to be a little more educated with that. But Tim was instantly, like, we were saying the same thing, you know, this is what we're doing.
Is that possible? Isn't it by
On
law?
individual, it would have to be by lot,
You'd have to break them apart.
I would
Like
think.
build all the.
So, you know, this is still on our behalf.
But you have to build them all at once. You know,
Build them all at once.
right, you know what I'm saying, instead of building, because you don't want build 8 units when you don't build the first one.
Right.
You know, and it's the same thing, you know, we might wanna do apartments and then move up here and maybe phase 1 to 55 and older. You know, to make the diversified of what's going on there. And I can pass it on to, you know, if I sell to a hotel chain or if we own it or, you know, that it can be passed on.
Shift gears slightly here. Did you ever talk to the fire department as far as, are they prepared for a 55 in unit?
I actually have talked to them, but I've never, not on this speech yet. But I did on my other one with the 55 and older, you know, and that was similar, well, it was only on 10 acres, but yes, I did. Because a lot of times what we look for is when we do a site plan, we always meet with the fire department because there's, and it's weird because every city has its own little likes and dislikes of what they do. You know, some of it's how far is the fire hydrant away? You know, how can I turn my ladder truck around this corner? We do with every site plan, we always sit down on it. But as far as this through road that we're putting in, no, not yet. And it's weird, they wanna be able to pull in here and have this radius, some cities don't care. But we always at least make sure that they're involved.
I think we're probably gonna wrap this discussion.
I feel good, I thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
I think we're in new territory here.
Joey did good.
That's not funny.
A little bit about where we're at.
Just thinking about trees we killed.
Yeah, all right, thanks, guys.
Do you have any questions on numbers, anything in there? I'll look back at that.
Is your email on one of those documents?
I just use. You might have noticed a change in position.
Oh, ouch. Thanks, Dad. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Have extra copies of everything.
Yes.
And go plant a tree after this out in the park.
Oh, yes.
You guys kind of agree with me as far as that road will pull our view, I'll pull traffic out of Parkview and off.
I do too.
I think so.
I do.
I do.
We were pretty excited when we were crunching our numbers to say.
I don't know if it's, it seemed like a pretty high number with the report tonight, but I definitely feel like that's definitely a direction,
We thought the same thing.
which is why we were
I'd say
really.
there were problems with
The concern, but the concern wrapped up with that adds to the congestion getting on the 20. It's.
Well, then, no matter what.
That's right.
What's that?
Right now, you'd still believe the same way that people.
You think they're all just going this way? They're just.
Yeah, I don't know too many that are actually heading through town unless they got gas or.
I see what you're saying.
Well,
Gotta turn on the
some of the
gas.
stuff that's opening up now, the coffee shop and.
And I definitely, because there's a lot of people who probably live there, go to the view for work. So, right, but
He's one of them.
he's one of those. Yes, that's right.
I'll take you like 4 minutes.
All right, thanks, guys.
Go like 89 miles an hour.
Exactly.
I just thought. Mike's not here, is he?
Building.
Building P, AJ Spiegel tax abatement request.
Yeah, basically same conversation. He's looking for an 80% abatement on years 5 through 10. I've been doing a little research on this. Looks like Modine Electric already has a development agreement in place. And that looks as though, and I just stumbled on this later this afternoon. It looks like there was an extension of that. And if that's the case, we can't do the abatement, we can go back and renegotiate the development agreement. So that to me, this is on me right now, is to get a hold of Dorsey and Whitney to find out the language, if it looks like it was passed by ordinance to extend it for another 10 years. And if that's the case, then we can't do that. We can open up the floor to go back and renegotiate his amount. But the original amount for Bodine was not to exceed 1.5 million. And that was back in 2009. I don't think we're anywhere near close to that, so we would be okay. But just give me an opportunity to speak to Amy Bajork at Dorsey. Update you.
So that was a TIF agreement, right?
Yes.
So he wants an abatement.
And he wants an abatement. You can only have one or the other. So that original agreement was scrapped back in 2009. It ends actually July 1st of this year. And then I came across another adoption by ordinance to extend that agreement out 10 years, but not to exceed the 1.5 million. So depending on where we're at and depending on and the legitimacy of that agreement, because I'm still kind of grappling with having the owner leasing a building and have the TIF or the rebates going back to the person who's leasing the property. It's not going back to the owners. To me, that just blows my mind because I've never had that happen before. You couldn't do it in Illinois. Any kind of rebate or development agreement that you went into had to go back to the owner of the property.
So do we know, is there a rationale why he wants the abatement versus the TIF?
Well, maybe he thinks that this agreement is ending July 1st, and this is a good opportunity for him to seize on that rebate, but cautiously moving forward, it would be my recommendation if we do any kind of tax abatement, especially on this one, that it would only be on the percentage that he's added on. Because I know that building is not tied in to the original building, but it's on the same lot or same parcel. So I would recommend that we look at only rebating years back 5 through 10 on the addition, not on the entire.
It should be total separate building, isn't it?
It is, but it's on the same parcel. So he didn't have it replatted. So there would be my recommendation is to move forward with an abatement only on that addition at 80% years 5 through 10.
Commercial stuff is a big, we all TIF to everything.
That's why I was wondering what the shift in,
Maybe, I don't know.
right?
And my education has been single-family residential, you can do the abatement, it's widely done. Multi-res, again, you can do that with the apartments like he was talking, but industrial and commercial has been TIF. And that was fresh from a conversation with McMichael and Dyersville 3 hours ago.
And that's what we're doing, everything else out there too.
Right. But you're working on it.
I am.
Perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
How do we get to, how do they get to that building? Do they have to go down at Simon Road, the gravel road to get to it?
Yes. Yes. Looks like they're almost done. I was down there yesterday and I don't know where they are as far as the exterior obviously is done. I saw some guys on the roof, so I don't know if they're putting any kind of HVAC in, but
Ours, because he had talked about when he was at the council, that was did pretty.
I think, yeah, he said
He's
it's
got
pretty
people who
close.
want to move into it.
Mhm.
I know our long-term wasn't to pave that road or nothing, right? It was to be gravel for.
It was supposed to be. I thought eventually once
What's
out.
everything's in there in red, it was just gonna be gravel though, just because it was going in the wastewater treatment plant.
It's a bloody muck mess down there.
I thought once we got everything, all the construction back there, we were gonna kind of throw some concrete on it.
Might have to now, might have to be part of that whole road corridor thing.
No. But back to AJ's abatement request, if that development agreement obviously is there, it would be real easy to go ahead and go back and amend that. And then just calculate what we think or the county assessor would think what those taxes would be in years 5 through 10, in addition to the existing building, and then just roll that right over into the development agreement.
Wage and salary discussion, gonna open up attachment, and then John, if you want to handle our discussion.
I'll try to. Okay, so we meaning the HR committee, Russ and Annette met with Dean, Stacy, and Mike. Got their feedback as far as what the remaining employees should look like. This is based off of their recommendations real close.
Very close.
There might be a little bit here and there. Obviously, the direction we got from Stacy was a little bit more vague. Would you agree to that?
Yes.
Just kind of, this person needs to be closer to this person, has to be more separated from this person. Dean gave us a little bit more specifics, and I don't think it's exact, but it's really close, I believe. And this is kind of where we landed.
This would be July 1.
Yes. Am I missing anything? Is that pretty much it in a nutshell?
Yeah, is this budgetable? Is this something in the budget?
We'll have to do an amendment. For the budget, we approved 5%, so obviously there'll be some deviation from that. But then, once we hit our budgeted payroll amount, then we'll do a budget amendment later this year, in December.
We did some research too, like salary for police chief for Asbury. And well, he's been there for quite a while, but how many officers he oversees versus which Mike's gonna be more than him. I think he only had 4. Mike, by the end of the year, will have 5, right? Yeah, fiscal year, but he was really close to that number. Same with, well, Stacy, we don't really have anything to compare to.
There's nothing to, there's nothing.
And Dean, we can compare to other cities, but Dean does
Stuff.
hourly and plows snow and does things like that, that a lot of those other cities they just sit at desks.
Right.
So, and we factor Dean's overtime average, was it 3 years?
Yes.
Of hours he has and pay. And kind of tack that on to his salary to show that he was, brought up close to the other directors. So it wasn't like, if you obviously this is 10,000 less on this than Mike, but that
Mike doesn't have
hourly
the opportunity to get to.
overtime brings him up, yeah. And none of the other directors have opportunity for overtime.
Or the other directors put in that many hours.
Well, it's hard to calculate.
Stacy,
There's-
Yeah,
She's salaried, so there's really,
That would happen. I believe, I see Mike around here a lot of hours doing the parade stuff and.
and answers the phone all the time, I mean.
and like
goes on
for Vicky, who's salaried, it was explained to us, correct me if I'm wrong, that summertime hours are more busy, so she's here a lot more, and then in the wintertime, she's not, so it's a good balance.
So they are technically getting reimbursed, get the comp time, so when they're in vacation or time off when they retire, or however they want to see using that as well. Little extra hours if they're there. He's getting paid for
The hour.
yeah.
So are we down to just 3 public works guys again?
Dennis wasn't included in the increase.
Is he still here?
Yes. And we can have a conversation about that.
Sounds like it was.
Let's-
He's still here. Is he still here?
And a John here too.
Any questions?
Ranges, you guys working on ranges after this?
We want to get this nailed out, ranges as far as a pay scale type for everybody. And I think we've got, Mike put together something for us.
He's got something that's a little more hard and fast.
Right, and Dean was struggling to put stuff together because of right, you get someone shortly out of high school that wants to do this is gonna be not as valuable as someone that's been doing it for 15, 20 years, right? And so it's a little bit, so we're gonna hammer down on a little bit after we get this nailed out first.
It just kind of falls into place.
There's a lot.
And I would like those to tie in with the job descriptions as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those will be reviewed hopefully on an annual basis, once we have everything in place. Says John.
Thumbs up.
I don't see a real problem.
Sure.
Okay, I'll move it along to the agenda.
Thank you.
You bet. Another question is, this will become a public document before my staff meeting, so I would like to meet with staff before, and this is where it gets a little tough, a little iffy, because if somebody changes their mind between now and then, how would you like me to handle that?
I would say, Well, obviously, we went through and did it. I feel comfortable with it. I feel confident that I won't change my mind.
We'll get into it with each department heads and then go through the staff with them.
Sure.
In that way versus the whole staff meeting, you know what I mean?
I guess I don't want to put words in, but you weren't, she's concerned that she'd present this and then three of us would change our mind.
I'm fine with it. I'm not gonna change it.
I think we can figure it out.
So it's recorded.
99.
So the head nods. Can I count?
Cameras were on.
Just for the recording, everybody's nodding.
No, that makes sense.
Everyone is in agreement that this is pretty solid.
Okay, so you'd like me to meet with the department heads to let them know?
So
They're
I think
saying-
that'd be cleaner, right? That way you don't see
For
every.
that,
You're not presenting all the information in front of everybody.
so since it's going to be Tuesday,
Correct. And then my staff meeting's Wednesday morning.
right, and you would like to Tuesday.
Yes, because I'm just afraid, they could log on just as easily as anybody else, and
Sure.
that's not a good.
So really
No,
prior to releasing the agenda.
Yeah, yes.
I think it makes sense.
So I'll meet with the department heads and let them know what each employee is receiving.
And then I would ask them if they feel there's any,
Can we backdate
if they're actual,
I will do
I think
that.
the idea is that, what do you mean backdated?
what's the question?
Do it at the second meeting instead of first. And then she'll have time to do whatever.
Oh, I'll have plenty of
It's
time.
it's still the same situation. If you do it at the second meeting, because it's still gonna come out in the meeting, and there's a lag from the meeting to the staff meeting. That's the concern.
Yeah, the agenda will be released
So they'll know what's on the agenda.
Monday.
So they'll be like, okay, when once.
So you have to
the
meet
meeting's
with them
over-
tomorrow. I can meet with them Monday morning, because it won't be released until Wednesday.
Yeah, 24 hours, but yeah, you-
You know what I mean? This is-
Oh, I think you don't feel there'd be any need, that you can get with the department heads Monday or
Absolutely.
Tuesday prior to the meeting.
Well, Monday.
Yeah, it'd be one thing,
Monday
it'd
before.
be one thing if it was,
Monday before the.
Yeah, oh, by the way, you're gonna get cut 15%.
and you're gonna learn it through a online portal.
Now, let's just,
Attachment.
Exactly.
let's just see if we can get it in and done with it.
Yeah, I mean, and if I know Dean won't be here tomorrow, Stacy may be here tomorrow, so that's a good opportunity to meet her. Mike is on vacation, he'll be back Monday. So I'm sure he'll stop in first thing in the morning, I'll ask him
And
to.
again,
and-
they were involved in, our initial discussion.
Right.
They weren't involved in the final discussion. But there's not.
Will they have enough time to meet with their
Their
respective people?
thoughts.
I think they will.
I think
Yeah, but see all those people on a daily basis. Not like they have
I
15.
mean, Stacy has to see Vicky because Ty is not included.
Right. Yep.
Dean
Yeah.
has to see Matt
Two people. Right. And Robbie.
and Robbie. And this is why I
And-
instructed you to look here. And,
Yeah, I think,
Feel free to talk now because this won't be.
and then Mike can, I think, talk to his guys.
Yeah, I think it's plenty of time, just as long as and I can let Mike know Sunday, I'll just send him a text and say, hey, welcome back. Stop in and see me first thing.
They're aware it's happening, so it's.
Yeah.
I'm.
And it's more than what they already think they're getting, everyone, so they should be fairly happy, I would think.
Thank you.
College suites.
What do they want?
Wes Schulte wants to pulverize the road and then have it repaved, and those are the quotes that he got. The third attachment on there, Dean kind of went out of his way and bless his heart and talked to River City Paving, and those are the quotes that he has. We don't have enough money to do both of them. That's a little over $40,000 to beat it up, tear it out and repave it. But we do have some money left behind after the Thunder Valley Road overlay that we can use. So maybe if the council would want to entertain doing a 50-50 split with Wes, there is that option, or we can choose not to do anything. I know it seems, I don't want to pick and choose, but we've already said no, that we didn't want to participate on the water meter absorption of that cost. Wes has been very fortunate to get an agreement, an incentive agreement with the city. And he's also received quite a bit of tax credits from the state of Iowa. So I don't think it's going to surprise him if we say no.
Yeah, the only,
What kind of work are you opening up? Like, our developer is gonna come here and be like, hey, give me some more money.
but see, we can pick and choose. I mean, we can,
For him, why ain't you doing it for me?
We needed this at the time. We don't need, I mean, do you think we'd give as much tax advantage, tax incentive to another bowling alley? Would we be required to?
50-50 splits up.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking.
I like that.
But I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, I mean, we can pick and choose.
There again, it's kind of like the tax abatement and TIF.
Which,
I mean-
yeah, it sounds like, what Joel, well,
Right.
this is what you're doing for,
What do you want? And then again, you're really setting a precedence, but again,
We already gave them to.
right, we did. And in my notes in that comparison, that each project stands alone on their own merit. So again, that gives you the flexibility to decide what you want to participate in and what you don't want to participate in.
Once this is all said and done, it's gonna be the city's gonna cover it anyway.
Right.
We can get them 50-50. Sounds good to me.
I'm 50.
man, I like that it shows that we're working with a newer developer in the area. And what that's worth, I don't know.
All right, well, I'll put it on the agenda. Marcy will put it on the agenda for approval Tuesday night.
Get rid of the peddlers. Sure, is that allowed?
What'd you say?
Get rid of the peddlers.
Just build a wall around the town.
So Piasta Peddlers,
Yeah.
That's the mamas.
This is a unique situation. Years past, there has been people from outside the US coming in and selling books, and they're quite pushy, and we're getting some feedback that this is not something that we want to reward. So trying to tighten up the peddlers ordinance would be my recommendation, making a little bit more difficult to get bonded. There's a $1,000 bond in there. It's raising the application fee a little bit to sort of cover for the background check. The background checks, from what Mike has told me, that they're only done in Iowa. They're not done outside the state. So if these people, and I shouldn't say these people, I'm not discriminatory by any means, but if people are coming in from another country, we don't know what their past is. And this will not be a liability or hurt the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or any kind of school fundraising. It just really prohibits people from going door to door being pushy.
So how does that separate that from my kid wanting to have a Kool-Aid stand?
He's not going door to door.
Okay, what happens, okay, from Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts?
Sure, if they're selling cookies or if they're selling, whatever, then to me, that's a fundraising opportunity
Okay.
for a school or a civic organization versus
For profit.
right.
Got it.
Because this is what they're pushing, and they push the sales, obviously, because they want to be profitable.
So the concern is we're not able to do a background check.
I think first and foremost, that scares me. I'm only going off of the information that people have shared with me.
Sure.
And that scares me to death, and knowing.
So if we're not able to do, if we're not able to do a background check, why do we want our community to begin with?
I think that's just a common process of any community is to do the background checks.
So you just have to do the background.
No, my saying here, we can only do an Iowa background check.
I mean, he could go out to the US federal and see if they're on a terrorist list, but again, when you
Want
go,
them to do is, right?
right, and by enforcing the bonding, that is really going to restrict their, I guess, their ability
Iowa.
to be bondable.
Get on FBI's server and look up stuff.
So that does a background check really do us any good?
But it still consumes our time.
It's better than not doing it.
I guess my point is there a way to not just allow peddlers in the community?
Sure. But then I think you're gonna have to outline the definition of a peddler and then give examples versus just saying no peddling allowed.
I'm just thinking, I've got,
Bad.
I've heard they're pretty pushy.
I mean, I know they can be when they're around.
And I guess I'm playing devil's advocate where if we can only do it, use the word half-assed background check in just the state of Iowa, they could be coming from Illinois, Wisconsin, whatever, and have an armed list of assaults.
Right.
And we think we're safe, but we're not. if they're in our community.
And I mean, the background checks that we are doing are the free ones and.
Sure.
I mean, we're using Mike's time or any other officer's time to do it. But I mean, to do an extensive background, I'm sure it's in excess of $150 to $200.
You're gonna have to go to the UI's website.
Sure. And is it worth it? And is it be support
No.
not down that rabbit hole? Or we just think
That's
this is.
totally up to you. I mean,
this
this is kind of just a free,
As
the first,
restrictive. Right, we're just trying to be as restrictive on this as
right,
possible.
yes. And I don't know, have they called back to pull the application? I don't think
Not
they
that I'm aware
have.
So I was dropping his meat off at so-and-so's and you ever had that guy? He's a player.
See,
The bonding.
sometimes they're kind of fun.
Right.
Fun.
He's like kind of wild. people. Like, let me show you how to clean our windows.
Or do
They call.
Or do they start peddling when Mike sees what says?
Well, I don't,
Someone called recently, which kind of started the.
So this has the,
they Skyped.
Is that what it was?
Yes,
Okay.
they Skyped.
that's a red flag.
International call.
Oh, can I come?
So it's $100.
He wanted to go to the visa.
So the deterrent
But that was my point is do we,
is that they have to be bonded. Right. And if you're not an American citizen, you probably can't become.
I think it
bonded,
becomes more difficult to be
or it
bonded.
becomes more difficult. So the bonding is the deterrent from them actually going through the process to actually get bonded to come in and do it.
If
So,
we put that-
gotcha.
if we put that one day though higher, then they're gonna make it profits.
Yeah, and you can do that, but I just went off of like what locally, what other communities are doing.
But as long as we're getting all our time covered, I
I
guess.
said, let's start here. And if it's not deterring or if it's not doing what the math we want to do, we can always adjust it, right?
Are you comfortable enough with me putting this on the agenda for Tuesday to be passed and have the second, and third reading waived?
It's fine with me.
Because
That like-
I know as soon
sounds
as
like-
what happens is we're gonna have the first reading and then right before the second, they're gonna show up.
Yep.
So,
It's peddling season.
well, Marcy's had firsthand experience with
Well,
you
yeah.
guys.
Have you ever had them over your house?
That's a rainbow carpet cleaner people.
No, what is there?
I love peddlers trying to sell things, solicit.
Well, yeah, but they're like pushy, trying to sell you books and like you're telling the kids get in the house, you know, like.
Yeah.
My daughter.
It's a right.
I got these
If they came to my house.
Lots
I
of
was-
permanents like F off.
And then that's what, oh, okay.
Check with this one.
I didn't realize it
I was
was.
curious to like those.
That's what on Skype, that's a red flag. They don't even have a cell phone number.
You're
Peddlers.
saying we should get that,
I'm just curious,
including incumbent council and
What's that?
excluding council members.
politicians who come into town to go.
I hate that too, and I like politics. But even the politicians don't really want to knock on your door. It's just part of the job.
It's part of the gig.
So we want to deter them, that's what Justin's saying. So if we deter
Candidate
them
doesn't do
by
it, it's just up there.
requiring them
Yeah.
to
Fill out a
fill
permit.
out a peddler's.
I have a feeling it's not a
Telling anything.
profit thing.
Themselves.
Get around. What if then you have to block the Jehovah Witnesses from town too? Or what's that? Whatever.
You're right.
We should probably stop.
Let's move on.
No, the mouth is shut.
But your son needs a mobile food permit for that lemonade stand, just so you know.
Come get it from
Do
me.
they get one when they're out here on the?
$100 a day,
Yeah.
750 profit.
Send the police
I've
out.
seen 3 of them in
Well,
like.
send the police out to permit, to shut them down.
Peddlers.
Okay.
All right, move on, let's go. We're at sidewalk
Sidewalk
ordinance.
ordinance. This thing has been vetted through you guys, I don't know how many times, and it's been taken through Doug Herman. All of his suggestions have been incorporated. Feel very good about it, the way it is.
Yes.
This is something that, gosh, how long ago, Justin, did we start talking about this? It was before the,
3 months ago.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was 4.
So,
I said, I don't, this is all the same stuff. I was just gonna bring up that with his development agreement, him excluding the sidewalks, I think you're gonna lock yourself into if he doesn't build that, he builds that road and then there's no sidewalks on it until he decides to build on one of them lots.
so you want the road width wider?
I would want that,
Final plat has already been ran through.
no, I don't mean the road's wider. We could put sidewalks there.
you're talking specific
I'm
to
saying
that road,
in his development agreement that he's not putting sidewalks in
not until it gets developed.
until it gets developed. But what happens when that lot sits there for 5 years?
People are walking the road,
People are walking.
even if
the
there
road.
isn't a building on it.
So I think,
There's gonna be traffic as soon as the road.
I think the sidewalks need to be put in like some sort of timeline,
Like
say,
in 2 years.
yeah, 2, 4.
You
I
know,
don't
he's
care.
been good about like offering to work with us. I think
I'm
we
just
say that we
saying,
want the sidewalks
It's
in.
not just him, it's any developer.
Isn't that in the subdivision
On the other end.
ordinance?
A lot's the same way.
But isn't that in the didn't I read that in the subdivision ordinance?
Yes. And the subdivision ordinance is just kind of comparing, bringing in the sidewalk ordinance so that if we decide, if the council so chooses next Tuesday to waive the readings, then that'll be in effect July 1.
So basically in the subdivision, they're required to put sidewalks in. right?
Yes.
So then in that case, if this,
But it'd be anybody that wants to develop like that.
Is
He doesn't, he's not doing subdivision.
the argument against, I'll take John's role and be the devil's advocate, that they don't want the sidewalks in because they are gonna be, when they come in to develop then the property, you're just gonna destroy those sidewalks and have to.
Yeah.
Potentially, yes. But what is the cost of?
the grand scheme,
Less than
sidewalk?
grand scheme of that.
In the grand scheme of things that
Yeah.
we'll put patches in where you tore them up and be done with it.
I think you'd be better off by putting a time limitation in there.
Yes.
But that's for that specific.
subdivision.
That specific development.
I don't
And
think
for his
you can.
agreement, yes.
For his agreement.
For his agreement. But what happens with Jim Collins or the next guy over when they want to break it up the same way and not do a subdivision? They just do, we're into this piece.
Right, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
You're still doing it.
So you want to see that in here.
I,
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
No.
Okay, so what, do you want to do a time limitation on
I would,
once the final plat is approved? Or once development begins,
2
then,
years after development begins.
okay. And you want that in
Sidewalks are completed
So that
in
way.
every new development, residential, commercial, doesn't matter.
Residential.
And it's just,
Well, yeah, now.
it's just the throughway streets? Or every street?
Any street, all right.
Or like if he puts like a
Any street.
cul-de-sac off of,
Yeah,
moving forward.
Yes, moving
Yep.
forward.
okay,
So everybody's grandfathered in. So you don't have to put, if you don't have an existing sidewalk, you don't have to put one in.
from this, when this goes into
July 1st.
July 1st forward, you need to meet the requirement of having sidewalks in within, you said 1 year? 2 years. 2 years.
And you want that in the subdivision ordinance?
I think it needs to be on sidewalk ordinance.
If it's in the sidewalk ordinance, doesn't it just fall into the subdivision ordinance?
I'm gonna have to go back and look at the verbiage again, but I'll double check.
So that way it will stay with the sidewalk. I don't care if subdivision should be. I do itself, because the sidewalk ordinance is already tied to it.
Okay.
I get what you're trying to get at. Picking up what you're putting down.
So will that take it off of the
Some
agenda?
Smaller communities where all of a sudden you got sidewalk.
And that's
Close, we're close.
yeah.
All right, all right.
I gotta put this.
All right, I'll take that off the agenda then for Tuesday.
I don't think this have to be taken.
Yeah, I think if you want to change it like that.
She just wants to make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed.
Yeah, I don't.
She's not pushing
So we can do it the second.
So then subdivision,
Sidewalks 2 year after development begins? Or construction begins? I'm sorry, I want to back up.
I don't know, how do you want us after improvements are completed? Well, I don't know how that would work with your streets,
You certainly don't want to put sidewalk in while you're building the house or building a building.
right?
How about certificate of occupancy? Then that's when the clock begins.
Still be running the same problem, though, won't you?
Well, again.
Yeah. Oh, completion, can you just leave it at that?
Upon completion of,
The street.
Structure or whatever.
But see, but that's gonna run the same
Instead of
issue.
Splitting
Because
up lots.
if that road is in there
for one building.
and the building isn't, whatever building isn't for 5 years, that there's not gonna be a sidewalk there for 5 years, or 7 years at that point.
And the goal is to have sidewalks.
Can you say sidewalks are in as the road goes in?
that's what Marcy just said, so that would be perfect.
Upon completion of the street.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like that.
that'd be fine,
We can make adjustments from there if
for 2 years after completion of the street.
I'd say 1.
1 year,
I think the goal was to have them in as soon as possible.
Yeah,
especially if
How
we're
about just say-
trying to make
how about
this
just say-
trail an issue.
upon completion of street, and then that way we don't, there's no variable that says you wait for a year, you wait for 2 years or whatever. So when the street's done, you need to put it in. And again, if we had some hiccups or we don't feel comfortable with it,
We always back
we
off.
could always do that.
Who's gonna pay for that though?
The sidewalks,
Cause then all of a sudden, like in a residential area,
the developer puts the sidewalks in, and then the sidewalks, when
the
the
developer was
done,
paying for the sidewalks when they sell a lot, supposedly.
Right.
I'm sure that including in the cost.
Mhm. Okay.
That's more. So something was passed the subdivision ordinance too, or was there?
no, we're gonna, it'll have to be, I'll have to incorporate that language in there as well, from the sidewalk to the subdivision.
Tonight it does move as fast.
Who was passed it tonight and it won't be, it'll be taken off the agenda for.
Correct,
Tuesday.
yep, so we'll lighten up the agenda a little bit for Tuesday.
So then the last item,
Yeah, I thought I'd round up.
have your chickens come to roost?
I just wanted to round the night out with this.
Chickens.
Um, We've had people call, I know there's people that have them here. Maybe we need to be a little bit more restrictive. Do we even want them? I mean, obviously, people have them now. Do we, I'm sorry, what, Justin?
No roosters allowed.
Right, well, I have that language in the administrative content that Asbury allows 6 hens, no roosters. And then once the coop is bigger than 150 square feet, then they have to have a permit. So personally, I would rather not have any of them.
Chicken's expensive. They're just trying to live.
And today I had,
have no reason to
I mean, does it fall under farm animals? What?
here's my.
lead to something else.
Yes. Today, a community in, I think it was Osceola, Iowa, sent out on Grapevine, does anybody have any language on restriction of pigs? In a, yeah, potbelly pigs in a residential area. So this is where this is going.
Bacon. Pigs, chickens, rabbits,
Goats,
roosters, goats,
maybe
I've got a
goats.
donkey I keep in my.
cows, donkeys,
There used to be
horses.
horses right in the middle of town. I love that. I miss them.
Like that much.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, right where, the hardware store, yeah.
Yeah, I'd
What-
Hey, this is all being recorded.
But that was a farm.
I know.
I would say
Well, we still have horses in town though, right? So then what does that mean?
We have horses in town.
Yeah, back by the fire hydrant or the
Oh, yeah.
water tower. I run back there.
Well, again, that's grandfathered in, so just moving forward, it would
There's more
died.
horses back there.